Hello and welcome to You've Seen It Before, movie reviews and connections of mind, and welcome to another installment in my review and reaction series to each and every episode of Season 3 of Star Trek Discovery. If you've never seen any of my other review and reaction episodes up until this point, that's just my series where I give my brief overview of the latest episode of whichever series I happen to be reviewing at the time, what I liked and disliked about the episode, what I thought worked and didn't work, as well as some analysis as to certain plot developments and character arcs that may seem familiar to you and where you may have seen them before. Just to get this out of the way, this will be a full spoiler review of the latest episode of Star Trek Discovery. So if you've not seen the latest episode yet, it happens to be the finale of this season, I highly recommend coming back when you have, because this will be full-on spoilers from here on out. So with that being said, without further ado, let's get into Star Trek Discovery Season 3, Episode 13, entitled That Hope Is You, Part 2. Sort of bucking the traditional naming convention of Star Trek episodes, where normally Part 1, Part 2 episodes are right next to each other in the season. Now this seems to be more of a bookend, sort of Part 1, Part 2, where That Hope Is You, Part 1 was the very first episode of this season. Now we come to Part 2, and this episode picks up pretty much right as the action's getting going from the previous episode, where Osira is threatening the security of the Federation, discovered from within the shield perimeter, and the Viridian, her ship, on the outside, firing on the shield perimeter, and there's a whole lot of commotion, and Osira's just basically trying to blast her way out of the Federation shield bubble, while also trying to get the coordinates of the dilithium planet that she so desperately needs in order to get the Emerald Chain back up and running again. While all this is going on, Osira is trying to get these coordinates by basically psychically torturing Cleveland Booker, while Burnham is held watching. The senior staff of Discovery is trying to regain control of the ship. However, Osira has sealed off the decks 5 and above and turned off the life support to the rest of the ship, and so the crew is basically slowly suffocating while trying to both get control of Discovery back from a propulsion standpoint, but also to erase the computer hack that the Emerald Chain made. So while all that is going on, on the planet, where the dilithium planet back in the nebula, Saru, Culber, and Adira are trying to help Su'Kal essentially give up his holographic fantasy, because it is rapidly deteriorating and the radiation is closing in, and while Su'Kal is basically sort of living in denial about there even being an outside world, because he doesn't want to face his great fear, this represented by this dark holographic monster. The Saru is basically acting almost like a surrogate father in a way to Su'Kal, trying to guide him through his fears, and he's going to help Su'Kal through this. And also, one more interesting surprise in this holographic environment on the ship is that Gray, Adira's dead boyfriend, who she's been seeing herself all this time, and only herself, but no one else can. Now, for some reason, being on this holodeck, Gray is now in a holographic body. Who knows how that happened? It just is. He also looks like a Vulcan. But Culber actually is able to essentially meet Gray for the first time on this holodeck. So there's that going on. Also, during this, the crew of onboard Discovery is allowed to leave the Federation's security field, because a fleet of Navarian or Vulcan ships comes to as backup. However, Burnham negotiates Discovery to warp away because they don't want this to escalate. There is a conflict between the senior staff of Discovery that are trying to sabotage the ship so that they can drop out of warp. Meanwhile, Booker and Burnham manage to escape the capture by Osira, and they're making their way to Discovery's data core so that they can successfully wipe the Emerald Chain's malicious code from the computer so that they can regain control of the ship. While all this is going on, in the end, Burnham is able to defeat Osira in hand-to-hand combat, or phaser combat, close quarters combat, I guess I should say, and able to restore Discovery's computer system, able to restore life support. Miraculously, no one actually died. It looked like it was going to be a one-way trip for a couple of the crew members, but they actually made it out, so they make it to the bridge. However, the Viridian has actually engulfed Discovery. They opened like their cargo bay doors or whatever and entered the entirety of Discovery inside the ship. And the Viridian's trying to pulverize the shields in order to puncture the hole and get back in. The only way out, it seems, is to eject the warp core and detonate it, all while using the spore drive to jump back to the nebula and rescue the away team. How can they do that without Lieutenant Stamets? Well, it's revealed that Booker, because of his species' empathic abilities, he is able to tap into the mycelial spores, which are the integral part of the spore drive. And so now Stamets is not the only one who is able to use the spore drive technology, and they are able to jump out and while leaving their detonating warp core behind, destroying the Viridian. The Discovery is actually able to get back to the nebula and save the away team in due time. Before that, the away team, Saru was able to coach Su'Kal through his fears, and he's able to face the fact that the door that he never wanted to enter, that he closed the whole time, the holographic skin is stripped away to reveal that this is the room, in fact, where his mother and his entire family was killed. And through a holo recording that shows that when he was very young, he sees this happen, and in his grief and anger, because of his unique physiology, he has in tune with the dilithium, and that was the event that triggered the burn that destroyed all the dilithium in all the ships that caused the burn. So he was able to coax it through it. Now, once everyone is successfully saved, the episode ends with some personal developments. One being Saru takes a leave of absence to go take Su'Kal back to Kaminar and help Su'Kal learn to live a life outside of the holodeck and in a world where there's like open sky ahead of him, reconnect with his past, all good things. It's revealed that there's a happy reunion with Stamets, Culber, and Adira, and because of Burnham's actions when basically keeping Stamets from jumping Discovery back to the nebula to try and save Culber and Adira, there's some pointed looks between them from a distance that seems to show that Burnham's action has definitely put that relationship to a strain, and it's going to take some time to heal that one. So there's definitely some friction going on there. And finally, because the Emerald Chain is now effectively collapsed with the death of Osira, the disparate worlds that used to make up the Federation are either joining back or considering joining back in the short term, and the Federation is starting to mine the dilithium from the dilithium plant and delivering it to these worlds so that they can start to get back on their feet again. And Discovery is going to be their courier, and Admiral Vance basically lays it out for Burnham. Saru wants you to be the captain of Discovery, and I want you to be the captain too. I was wrong about you, and your way can also work. So this episode ends with everyone gets the uniform upgrade. They're all up to 32nd century Starfleet standard, and Burnham now officially is captain of the USS Discovery. And this episode ends with a very touching quote from the late great Gene Roddenberry. So yeah, that was this season finale. As far as a lot of build-up this whole season, and this all building up to this, I'd say for the most part it actually worked pretty well. I like the fact that this was a bookend sort of season where the part 1, part 2 of it, where the looking back on it now, the part 1 definitely set up a whole lot of things, and they are pretty much resolved in this episode. And I think the setup of that works great. Like Burnham's personal growth, her rough transition from the past to the future, and how that personal growth would work, and how she seems to have grown more confident in herself. That whole arc is great. I like the fact that even Admiral Vance, who was introduced only like a third of the way through the season and seemed like he might be a relatively minor character, he actually gets a decent amount of character development throughout the rest of the season, and I think that works great. I like the fact that the arc with Saru, and Saru is now finding his own place, where maybe he was having his qualms of being a captain to a certain extent, and while he's not necessarily unready to be a captain again, he finds new purpose in the form of Su'Kal. Just as far as the character work in this episode is great, just because it pays off so much that has been built up throughout the rest of the season. Some things that I don't think necessarily worked are, for one, they do go into some deep explanation, or there's a extended sequence where Cobra and Dira are discussing basically the mechanics of the burn. How can Su'Kal actually have caused the burn, and how does his emotional state impact what happened there? And it's not like Star Trek is unused to technobabble. I mean, that was sort of coined during the Star Trek Voyager days, and some to a lesser extent Deep Space Nine, but then proceeding through that. The reason I think that worked better in Voyager and even Enterprise and Deep Space Nine and that way, not so much here, is because they know that the technobabble, if you think about it too much, it's not going to make sense. And they know to go to basically, essentially yada yada it through the way, say like, alright, here it is, alright, this is something, it's like, it sounds vaguely plausible, you don't know what it is, but let's move on, trust us, it works. And it may work, it may not work, I don't know, but it doesn't impact the story that much. Here, on the other hand, they basically take their time too much trying to explain how the burn works, because that was sort of like the moment in the last, or 2 episodes ago, when it was revealed that, or at least implied that Su'Kal was the cause of the burn because of his emotional states, and I guess trying to answer the question for people who were asking why that could be. But if you think about the question, it just sounds really absurd, and again, maybe they're talking about actual scientific principles, and it's technobabble at its finest. I don't know. I just thought that they lingered on it so long, and I don't think it worked. That's just my quibble. Maybe it worked better for you. I don't know. The only other thing that I had a slight quibble about is the fact that, there's a lot of setup to not really a lot of payoff in terms of the suicide mission for the crew trying to plant the explosive to destabilize the warp field. It's like they were building that up so much, and then at the end it's like, nope, never mind, we're all good. And it's like, okay, I mean, if you're gonna do the fake out, fine, but it's like, don't linger on it so much. I mean, it's one of those where it's like you almost know that's gonna happen, but to a certain extent, TV series these days, it's like you can get away with like not having someone not make it out. Not saying that anyone actually needed to, but I feel like the way that was pulled off doesn't necessarily work. Also, just this may be more of a personal preference. They've shown in previous episodes that the mechanics of Discovery's like turbolift system is like you have the decks inside and you got these massive like network of turbolifts going this way, that way, every way. Similar to they sort of did that back in the days of the Kelvin universe with the Enterprise, but with this case, I mean, I don't know. It just doesn't look right to me. I think it looks so cavernous where it's like it looks like half the space of the ship is turbolifts. And maybe it is, but I mean, you got like caverns of space in this ship. And to me that just doesn't add up when I think of like how the ship is supposed to be laid out. And maybe that's only me, but to me it never in previous Star Trek series, it's always shown like the turbo shafts as like a shaft going this way, that crisscross, and it makes sense. It looks like a elevator. That's supposed to be what it is. It makes perfect sense. You don't need to do this whole giant thing, and that leads me into one of my things of what you may have seen before, the fight between Book and I forget the guy, the main the bad courier on the turbolift as it's like zipping through the network of Discovery's turbolift network. It really reminded me of the fights between Spock and Khan on that like garbage drone or whatever that was in Star Trek Into Darkness. That fight basically played out the same way. And I didn't think that fight was all that special either. So, what I will say, one of the things that was one of those yes moments, and like I say, I've been saying it all along, of anything with Grudge the Cat, and when the guy is threatening, he's like, I wonder what will make a bigger splat. It's like you or that fat cat of yours, and then and Book gets like the Hulk energy and shoves him out the door. It's like, she is a queen. And it's like, yes. That is one of those moments like, all right, thank you. It's like, yeah, that was a good moment. Also, the fact that Discovery is basically swallowed up by this giant ship, very reminiscent of two separate instances of Star Trek Enterprise. One being from, I believe, season 2, where I believe the episode was called The Crossing, where the Enterprise basically swallowed up by like this giant ship, and the Enterprise is in this like belly of the beast kind of ship, and also in Enterprise's third season when the aquatic ship basically ferries the damaged Enterprise in the belly of the giant ship. So there's that. Also, there's a parallel to be made with the way that Su'Kal's power is essentially tied to his emotional state or his grief or anger. It reminded me of X-Men First Class, where it's revealed that Magneto, Eric Lensher's powers are tripped by his pain, and he finds out this by, unfortunately, his mother gets shot by the Nazis. So it's like, okay, there's an interesting parallel there as well. So those are my main points of comparison. What did you think of this season finale? Did you like it? Did you not like it? Did I miss something in my analysis? Did I get something wrong? Let me know in the comments down below. Thank you so much for watching. I appreciate whatever audience I can get. Be sure to look for my overall season review of Star Trek Discovery coming in the coming weeks here. As well as it's going to be a pretty quiet January and February perhaps, but hopefully come March some new movies will be coming out. Fingers crossed, some theaters will be open so I can see these movies and get back to you. Again, you guys are the best. Thank you so much for watching, and if you liked this video or any other video on my channel, please give me a like, share, and especially subscribe. I'd very much appreciate it. You guys are the best. Thank you for watching. Just remember, there is nothing new under the sun. And yes, you have seen it before.